It's super awesome to get to know all of you tonight because we're going to interact a little bit. And I encourage you, if you can, to go ahead and turn your camera on. If you can't, that's fine. But the point of tonight is to help initiate change into your life. If there's one thing that I can say on a personal level, it's all of you follow Nikki, and all of you know Nikki's story about how she went from a lawyer, a job, a crazy world, a crazy life, to setting herself free and to entering into the world of being an animal psychic and doing this wonderful work that she does. On the other hand, we walked the same path together. I was a Marine. I was getting into law enforcement, and I went through an awakening as well, and I ended up getting into the work that I do now, which is pretty much, if I can say it in one sentence, is I help people change their life. So if you're in a place where you're looking to enhance more of your life, find more empowerment, if you're looking for something to change, there's a technique that I'm going to go over with all of you tonight that I have made as simple as possible. But really what it is, it's a concept that I want all of you to walk away with. And the concept is that each and every single one of you are the masters of your life. And when you tap into the internal guidance system that is inside of you, your life is going to change dramatically, and you can create your life in any way, shape, or form. And I keep referring to Nikki because so many of you follow her very closely. She's very open about what she says, and so am I when I work with people. We created our life deliberately to how we are living now, the work we are doing now, how we are living. Everything is created deliberately. It's what we want for our life. And we want to awaken people to find what they want in their life actually become a reality. And whatever that is, whatever that one is, because I'm a person that I believe that there is something beautiful inside every single human being. And when you tap into your internal guidance system, that not only is your life going to get better, but you're going to help humanity, because I believe that's what we're all here to do. In fact, it's not even a belief. I know that's why we're all here, and that's why I do the work that I do. So once again, tonight is to usher change into your life and to give you a concept and to show you how sometimes the most simple things in your life can mean big changes for you. And I want to just explain to you a little bit about a different dynamic that exists in the world. We can go to people for answers, and then we get their answers and advice, and we make changes in our life based off of what they told us. Or we can find people that help awaken the internal guidance system up within ourselves. We find our own answers, and then we base our life off of our own guidance system. So we must be very careful who to listen to in the modern world and where to go for advice, because everyone wants to give you advice. Everyone wants to sell you on that they know what is best for you. But no one knows you better than you. And I can't stress that enough. There's an awakening happening on the planet that wants every single one of you, each and every single one of you, to awaken to your internal guidance and to follow it and to follow through with it. The problem is sometimes when we're a little older, we have so much momentum living a certain way that we look at the changes that we want to make as impossible, or we see ourselves doing something like talking to animals. Oh, there's no way that I could start a business talking to animals. There's no way that I can make a living doing that. Or maybe I want to do this, and there's no way that I can make a living helping chickens cross the street all day long. There's no doubt in my mind that every single one of you, whatever your passion is, if you follow that passion, everything else takes care of itself, and the universe will support you in making that happen. Because the energy that you're going to bring into the world is a benefit for not only yourself and humanity, and you will be supported, and you will flourish, and you'll find abundance. So tonight, this little simple thing that I call framework, it's a framework that I developed in a couple different areas, but I'm going to really simplify it for all of us tonight. So I would like us all to get very comfortable. It's very important that you take this next part very seriously, because this is gonna create the energy that is gonna stem for the rest of the night. All right. And then I will open up for some questions. We should have some time at the end. If you have any questions on kind of anything and about change in your life, right? It's all about changing. Changing is a beautiful energy when we tap into it. We just have to start change from the right place, right? So please get very comfortable. It's important that your body is able to relax, the nervous system is able to relax. And I'm going to I just heard some things going on. I'm going to quick make sure everybody's muted. Okay. So just everyone take a deep breath and let it out. Just take a deep breath and let it out. We're just going to, I wouldn't call this a meditation, but it's something that we're going to kind of enter into. So if you would like to close your eyes, that might serve you. I want you to think about yourself from more of an observational perspective. I want you to take a look at your life and what you're doing. How you eat, how you communicate with people, how your love life is, everything. Just let your mind kind of take you through this. Just keep on the path. Don't wander off into a rabbit hole of modern day nonsense. Just stay on the path of what is my life? Who am I? What am I doing with my life? Things like this. I'm going to invite in the highest good of myself. And if you give yourself permission to invite in the highest good of yourself, whatever that looks like, if you use names or details, go ahead and bring that in. However you create your reality with your belief systems, feel free to use that. There's no right or wrong here. The highest good that you interact with, feel free to call that in to be with you right now. Now, I would like you to think about yourself at the highest level, vibration, energy, whatever you want to call it, and what you would be doing if you were acting thoroughly, completing, doing everything that you see yourself, everything that your heart, when you tap into passion, sometimes when you feel the most alive, you see yourself doing things. What would you be eating? What is that highest version of yourself doing in your life? Happiness and joy. You know, if you were just so absorbently abundant and happy and joyful, what would you be doing? And I want you to be that person for me right here. I want you to land into yourself, to bring that person in, because we are going to respond from that person. Because that person is you. It's just at like a different level. You just have to step into that person. So let us embody that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move through something called the framework. We're going to move through 5 different areas of our life, and we're going to answer them from the place that you just accessed. And it can be very simple. We don't need to complicate this process, because sometimes we take substances, we do meditations, we do all these extracurricular things to access higher consciousness. But let us just be higher consciousness right now, because we all know what's best for us, right? Like if I asked you, what would be the best thing that you could do for yourself tomorrow, you would know what to do. So that energy. So we're going to go ahead. If you have a pen and paper in front of you, I would like you to write down the word internal. Internal. Now, this word for this exercise refers to your internal reality. The five senses don't exist in this place. I'm being vague for a reason because it's whatever your internal reality means for you. But essentially, it's when you lay your head down at night on your pillow to go to sleep, like the part of you that comes out then, like when the five senses are being put to rest, the day is slowly coming to an end. That part of you, that internal reality. What is one thing that you can shift, change, or bring awareness to in the midst of your internal reality that will help you continue the consciousness that you can tap into of your highest self, the highest aspect of yourself, looking down on this part of you right now? What is it? Shift, change, or bring awareness to one thing in your internal reality. I'm being vague for a reason. I want you to fill this in. What is one thing when you access your internal reality? No one else is around, no one can touch it. The five senses aren't engaged. What is going on inside of you? And what is one thing that you can shift, change, or bring awareness to that will help you extend into a higher consciousness? And the reason I say shift, change, or bring awareness to is because change is a big thing. Shifting is something subtle, and awareness is like a little whisper. And they all lead to each other. Awareness leads to shifting, shifting leads to changing. So you might be ready for a change, you might be ready for a shift, you might be ready for a little piece of awareness. Just giving something awareness shifts things. So what about your internal reality? One thing, and write it down. And if you're not able to write it down, just contemplate it, think with it, be with it. And be honest with yourself. It's very important. The honesty part. Moving on to the next aspect, which is external reality. Your external reality is everything the five senses that you can touch and feel. Your house, your job, your car, your appearance, the things that you interact with the most. Let's bring that in. So the Himalayan mountains are part of your external reality, unless you think going there is the answer. But they're not like really close to you. So it's the things that you engage with the most. So so what is one thing about your external reality that you can shift, change, or bring awareness to that will help you reach that consciousness? Stay in that consciousness. The internal reality is a reflection of the external reality, and they support each other. So your external reality can support the internal reality. But we must create an environment that supports who we want to be, not always who we are now. So what about your external reality can shift, change, or something to bring awareness to that will help you continue that consciousness that you tap into, that you are? Organization, cleanliness, getting something that's good for you that for some reason you're telling yourself that you don't need or you don't want to spend the money or whatever type of excuse you tell you. Getting rid of old things that no longer serve you. Shifting things around in your home. Making that spot for you to do an animal communication session or a psychic session or an intuitive reading or whatever type of, healing or whatever type of person you are, but creating that space in your life that you're going to take seriously. Create your life, people. That is what we're doing together. We're creating our lives together. So let's create. Now, the next thing is communication. We're going to backtrack. Relationships. Relationships. What are one or two relationships in your life that you can shift, change, or bring awareness to that will help you stay in the consciousness that you want to create your life from? Relationships are a massive, massive, massive piece of the human experience. If we do not flow in relationships, we are jammed up. There's a lot of jammed energy in our life. By completing and making relationships flow and healthy and whole, our whole reality will change. So, what are one or two that you can shift, change, or bring awareness to? I'm a massive fan of family and making a family a healthy place. You don't always have to be friends or quote unquote like be the best, but there's a lot of healing a lot of times that can be found in families, and it's a good place to start. It could be a coworker that you spend 40 hours a week with that you don't get along with. Imagine that coworker, he doesn't have to be your best friend, she doesn't have to be your best friend, but imagine saying, "Oh, I don't really get along with that person." Your whole reality shifts to where, "Hey, we're cool." You spend 40 hours a week together. That's a lot of interaction. So think about these relationships in your life. Now we're going to move into the next segment. This is the fourth segment. There's 5 segments of this framework. This is communication. This is the next one, communication. Communication is a massive, massive part of the human experience as well. If we do not communicate well, our life doesn't flourish. So I want you to think about how well do you communicate with others? How well do you communicate with yourself? How well do you communicate with life? How well do you communicate with the greater? However you perceive this dimension of your life, how well are you communicating in it? I want you just to think about it for a moment. And then, what is one thing about the communication aspect of your life that you can shift, change, or bring awareness to that will help you continue the momentum created within you? How well do you communicate with people? When they speak to you, do you hear them? Are you truly listening to them? Or are you waiting for yourself to speak? Or are you waiting for yourself to just leave? How well do you communicate with life? We can communicate with our bodies. How well do you communicate with your body? How well do you communicate with life, with everything? So, what is one thing that you can shift, change, or bring awareness to in the communication aspect of your life? I want you to continue inviting in the highest self. Continue to tap in with that and invite it into you right now to see what comes through to you. Now, there's an exercise that we're going to do. So, I want you to write impossible conversation. Impossible conversation. This is still within the communication segment of the framework, but it's an exercise. Now, this impossible conversation Are there any conversations in your life that you know if you had them, they would bring you liberation, freedom, and joy? Even if it's difficult. Is there a conversation inside of you that you know that you've been wanting to have for a long time that you either stuffed or buried? Or is there a lie in your life? You may be a new person now. You may not lie anymore. Is there a lie in your life? Do you need to ask forgiveness? Do you need to extend forgiveness? Do you extend love to someone? Did somebody hurt you and you need to let them know that they hurt you? Is there a conversation in your life that seems impossible, but if you know if you made it possible, it would bring you freedom, liberation, and joy? What is it? Be specific with who. Next, we're going to move on to health. Very simple. Everybody knows what health is, right? Opens it up to everything healthy. Anything. Food, exercise, what we watch on TV. I mean, like, there's so many things that we could consider in the health field. But if I asked you on a for your reality, for what your life is, you could get the greatest health coach, the greatest nutritionist, whoever's out there, and they could sell you their program and tell you what to do. But if I asked you, what is the first thing for you to do to extend that area of your life, what is it? What is one thing about the aspect in health that you can shift, change, or bring awareness to that will help you connect and stay in the consciousness that you know you are? It could be very simple. Eat less of something. Be specific. Eat less of something. Eat more of this. I had one of the most powerful experiences of my life, like an earth shattering experience one time. Because I venture off and I like to explore states of consciousness. And I had a very amazing experience one time in a state of consciousness. And I had no idea what I just experienced. I had no idea what just happened. All I knew is that I needed to eat less chocolate. That was like what massive takeaway. And the reason I'm sharing this is because we as human beings, we complicate everything. So we do not give enough power and credit to the simple things that cross through our consciousness, such as I'm doing this too much. I need to do less of it. Or, oh, I don't need, no, there has to be a bigger meaning than just eat less chocolate because that was too much. That's too simple. But then again, when I stopped eating so much chocolate all the time, that will shift your entire reality. Because it's not about the physical act, it's about following the breadcrumbs onward. It's all about following the breadcrumbs. It's not about exactly that breadcrumb. That breadcrumbs may not be the answer, but it's getting through all of that that is going to get you to where you want to go. So I say that because this is how you use the framework. When you find yourself in a weird place, because we all go in and out. Some days we're high, some days we're low. We're hooking and jabbing through life, even though some people act like they're great all the time. I work with people for a living. I want all of you to know that no one is ever just awesome all the time. I've never come across it. All right. So even though some people act like it, they're the ones that fall apart when their internal reality hits them at night. They're the ones that crash when they're not around people. So I say this because I want all of you to understand that all human beings flow through life like this. We can start to get we can start to learn how to move with the wave, to where the wave isn't so jagged and it's more like a ride. So we're not ping-ponging, but we're always going to flow like a river, like a wave. That's what keeps us alive. When we find ourselves in a place where we're not really vibing and we're questioning and we're conflicted, or we're a little low in the mind, maybe our body might be a little low, I'm telling you, in my own life and what I've seen in so many people, what works is literally what you just wrote down on the paper. Those answers are from you. You must understand, no matter how simple they might be or where they came from you. And if you followed through with each of those things, your life is going to change dramatically and usher in new change for your life. You must understand this, that there are doors that open for you and close. So sometimes people come, hey, Mike, I want to lose weight. Okay, cool. You want to lose weight. Well, guess what? Weight might not want to be lost on you yet. That door may not want to open for you yet, because there's another door that has to open before you lose the weight. So let's just forget about you focusing on this one thing and trying to kick that door open all the time. Let's just see what's there for you for what wants to happen. So this framework is like a stirring of the soup, that which is your life. If you don't stir soup, what happens? It burns. So you constantly stirred the pot of soup, the energy in your life. So one day you're like, oh, this external reality part, that doesn't want to happen today. But maybe that conversation, that feels finally that's going to happen. Or maybe I want to focus on the health part for a while. You constantly shift your energy, your focus into these different areas of your life, picking up little changes here or there. But we don't force things into existence, because there's a path for you to follow, these little breadcrumbs. Boop, 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 boop. And you just move through these different aspects. So when we're done this call tonight, if you want to add something to that framework, like maybe one of you are like, add a whole other section, do it. And I can't give you enough encouragement that the answers that you wrote down on this page tonight, they're big. And I want you to think about who you would be if all that was like, let's just say all those checks, because it's going to shift and morph. If we did this exercise again, maybe in another 6 months, you're going to have a whole new set of answers. But right now, all of that is a way forward for all of you to usher in liberation, freedom, and joy. And whatever you want out of life, know that you can get it. We just have to listen to ourselves. I personally feel that it's the fastest way to get what we want in our life is to just listen to ourselves. If you want to be rich, if you want to be successful in this, if you want to do that, if you want to travel, if you want to have kids, if you want this type of family, whatever you want, it's all valid. And listening to yourself in the path of the internal guidance system, but it's not always listening to yourself in the way of wanting. It's listening to like what wants to happen within you. So it's always starting to see, how can I change? How can I develop into a better person? Because this type of energy is a beautiful place to live your life from. And the reason I'm doing this, and the reason why Nikki and I do this together, because this is part of her academy, right? And we decided to open up to all of her people tonight, all of her followers, and we sent a broadcast out on her messages, because we really want to help all of you awaken to this. But this is how we did it. And we're still continuing to do these same type of processes. So that is how you use this. And here's a little trick. I want you to, when we're done, I want you to doodle on it and draw it and put your favorite symbols and pictures and all this type of stuff. And I want you to make it more of you. Colors, make it like a vision board thing, right? We've all seen that type of stuff. And then I want you just to put it somewhere where you're going to look at it every single day. When you look at things, it happens. So put it somewhere that you're going to see and know that it's going to happen. You can put it in front of a mirror. You can put it, in your pocket. Some people I've heard they carry it around. A lot of different things. Just put it somewhere that you're going to interact with the most. So now, if you would, I would like you to close your eyes again. I would like you to ground in that consciousness that you tapped into. And I want you to just take a moment and I want you to feel and experience yourself fully completing your framework, fully moving into that person. Just take a moment and be that person that's already done it. It's done already. And just take a deep breath. And let it out. And just trust yourselves. So what we're going to do now is we have some moments here. We have a few minutes. I just would like to open this up to anyone that would like to ask a question or anything in this realm. The floor is open for all of you. Just consider this a supporting environment. And I encourage everyone to listen with what I call cosmic ears, because a lot of time when people share things, it's medicine for us. And when you share something or you have an interaction, it's medicine for other people. So let's just see if there's anything there. But the floor is open for anyone that would like to ask me anything. Or you can comment on something if we need to kind of dive into something a little bit together. The floor is open.
Michael, are you able to hear me?
Yes. What's up, Luke?
Okay. I wanted to go back to communication. When you said, was it non-communication for the second phase? I think it was, or was it excommunication? I was trying to take notes and I forgot.
It was just communication in general.
Okay, communication. And then I know that there was another phase of communication when you said something about like excommunication, talking about like maybe forgiveness, or maybe there might be a family member you need to talk to.
Yeah,
What was that defined as? I forgot.
That was the impossible conversation.
Oh, impossible conversations. Okay, thank you.
Is there a conversation that you can make possible that in your life that is deemed impossible now?
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. The reason I have that is because when we have conversations inside of us that we have not had yet, it's jammed up energy. So whether you look at energy, maybe you call it chi, you're a yoga person and you look at your life through chakras, or however you look at things. I make everything really simple. I'm just like, hey man, when there's a conversation inside of you, I want you to think about there's a rock and it's buried inside of you somewhere. However you want to look at it. But that conversation is like this rock inside of you. And it's blocking goodness from happening in your life. It's that simple. When you have these impossible conversations, many of us have a lot of them. It took Nikki and I years to get through all of ours, and we still have them. But now the ones that we're having now are more current, and they're like difficult sometimes, but they're like more current. But pretty much I started way back when, and I brought everything up, and I've had so many of these, and I can't tell you how transformative they are. So I really encourage you to look into all that. And we have a question in the chat. I remember.
Mike, would you like me to read it so you don't
I
have to do both?
I see it. How do I stay in flow when I live with a negative energy person? Interactions and conversations often lead to conflict. That's a good one. This is a this is a very common one. This is when you have to really ask yourself, what do you want for your life? Like, that's just the best question you can ask yourself is, what do I want for my life? I don't know who this person is or whatever, and I don't want to give any advice on what you need to do with it or anything like that. But what do you want for your life? Because you have an energy in your life that is conflicting with you. And if you're living with that person, then you're living with something that is conflicting with who you are. So you just have to ask yourself, what do I want for my life? And if it often leads to conflict, you never want the conversations to go to conflict. In fact, I have a book I'm going to recommend specifically for you. Let's see. Who asked that question? All right, Stephanie, this is for you. Nonviolent communication. This is for anybody, but specifically for you, Stephanie. It's called Nonviolent Communication. This book will change your life. You can study his work. It goes very deep. But if you just read one book, it will help change you. The reason conversations go to conflict is because you are not speaking through need. And both of you feel actually unheard. So you must speak from a level of finding what each other needs from each other and be open and honest. And it's being vulnerable, really. If you allow yourself to be vulnerable. But when you speak from that, you are clear for them to realize what you need and for what you to realize what they need. This book helps you understand that concept a little bit more. This man was an amazing man. He's no longer with us, but he used to resolve conflicts of countries that went to war with each other in Africa. And he would resolve he would have people talking to each other where they killed each other's family, resolving conflicts. This guy's amazing. I can't believe it's not more in the mainstream, but it will help you understand communication, and it will help you understand specifically how to deal with communication that moves to conflict. It'll change your heart a little bit too. It's very good energy. So I recommend this book. But once again, you have to ask yourself what you want for yourself, what you want for your life, and you have to be very honest and allow yourself to be a little vulnerable. And when you communicate, the minute it starts to move into a conflict or any sort of anger or anything like that, the conversation has to stop. And that becomes a skill that you build. Because sometimes it's addicting to get into that. And I've worked with people where they can't stop once they're engaged in that conversation. And then it just goes from a 2 to a 5 to a 10. So we have to start to understand that conversation. When it gets to like a 2, you know it's a red flag. And you gotta just stop it. There's nothing wrong with just walking away, because it's not going to serve either of you. Nothing. If there's a drop of alcohol in your body, there's no point in having a conversation, any sort of conversation, to benefit your consciousness or your life. Because if it's in your body or the other person's body, it is not going to be any good. Alcohol is a conversation destroyer. So don't even bother. A lot of people try to get stuff done. Oh, well, I work a lot with marriages and relationships. And if that person's having a beer every single night and they're trying to have deep conversation, they're trying to get work done, it's not going to happen. It just will not happen. The vibrational frequency between the two isn't going to heal. It's not going to happen. So be very careful about each other's lifestyles. I'm not sure if any of that, I don't mean to go down a tangent. I'm just speaking from experience here. It just doesn't work. So this book will help you. He has YouTube seminars, he has lectures and podcasts that you can listen to. So this is an avenue that might help you heal that relationship in your life. It would be a good place to put your energy.
Mike, we had another question in the chat from Lizette. How would you handle a conversation with a person that is not interested in having it?
So when that happens, when there is an impossible conversation in your life, even if the other person doesn't know that they want to have it or they think it's needed or they don't want to have it, it's okay, because the healing happens whether they're aware of it or not, because it's a reciprocal thing. So when you want to have a conversation, it's important to set the conversation up the right way. So if the person has any sort of respect for you, any sort of love for you, any sort of connection, they will give you a conversation. You simply say, let's say George, right? Is there a George in here? I don't think so. Okay. So, hey, George. I would love it if you gave me a few minutes of your time for me to discuss something with you that is really, really dear to me. There's just something that I want to talk to you about. If we could talk in a distraction-free environment just for a few minutes and just let me express to you something, just let me talk to you about something. You don't have to say anything even, if we could just talk. You don't even have to tell them what it's for. You line a time and date up. You don't just jump into these conversations. You set a time for that. Sometimes, I would say 1 or 2 out of 10 times, the conversations happen organically out of the blue. Simply by you setting the intention, by writing that down onto your paper tonight, you started something, whether you think it or not. Now that you wrote that down on your paper, this conversation is going to be in the back of your head even more. I hope all of you know that. You're not going to be able to shake it off. You're going to be like, oh man, can't stop thinking about that thing. You know, Mike made sense when he brought that up, and I know I need to have it because it was in you. And then just by you have a little bit of awareness, it bubbled to the top, and now you want to have it. So you want to set it up properly and give it the proper space to have it. And that person might be ornery. They might be difficult. You might feel like you spilled your heart to them and they said nothing back and they were jaded. They were mean to you even. It's okay. It's totally okay, because the healing is going to happen. You have to understand, we're not all on the same level of awareness and consciousness. We're all getting through this together. And a lot of times the pain that is given back to you from people, it's not personal. It's just their pain. They're giving to you. They're reflecting back to you. So when you have the conversation, go into it with no expectations. It is simply for you to do and follow your heart for what you know is right for you. That's all. That's all these conversations are. Your heart wants to speak. Let it speak. No expectations. Doesn't matter. If they say nothing back to you and you just feel like you said the most profound thing to them ever, it doesn't matter. Just be careful. You don't have to also make yourself a punching bag either. That's not what I'm saying. Speak your heart, be simple, be clear. You can have a list of things you want to go over. You can write a letter. A letter is another way of having these conversations, by the way. And sometimes people ask me, in the circles that I work, sometimes I work with different groups of people, and I get asked a lot, how do I have conversations with people that have passed, that aren't with us in the physical world anymore? There's things that I want to communicate with them, because that comes up a lot. And it's totally possible. You just make the intention and you set the right space and have it, and you open up a cord to that person and you speak to them just as if they were right next to you. And they hear you. And the energy can be cleared. But you have to focus, you have to make it deliberate, and you have to mean it when you do it. Because the more that you mean it, the more you're going to feel it. You got to let that feeling flow through to them. Feelings are how we communicate interdimensionally. Feelings are communications from the universe, from higher realms, from higher consciousness, however you want to look at all this stuff. But feelings are very important. So when you have these conversations, make sure that you are communicating with your feelings. Let your heart speak. It's important. So that's once again, that's what this book kind of goes over. He doesn't say the words like I just said. He's all about speaking from your need, so each other, you know, each other hears what the other person needs. Like, how am I supposed to meet your need if I don't know what it is? How can I help you? I'm frustrated because you're yelling at me and you're coming at me with all this stuff and you're blaming me and we're back and forth, but there's a need that's not being met somewhere. It's getting to that need. But the impossible conversation may not be about a needs per se. There's a lot of things that can happen in these type of conversations. It's just about letting it go and having it.
Mike, I want to give a quick example. It's a silly one, but just to put it into perspective for you guys about what Mike just said about what's your need. So this is so silly, but when we do laundry, our washer and dryer is downstairs. Mike will leave his dry clothes hung up downstairs for 20 centuries. And I'm like, Mike, get your clothes and bring them upstairs. And I was like, you always leave them down here. They've been down here for a week. You probably should rewash them. And the one day I'll never forget it. He said, Nikki, what bothers you about this? And I said, when I want to hang up my wet clothes, your dry clothes are in the way. And I have to reach all the way up. The ceiling's kind of high, remove all your stuff, and then hang my clothes up. So he said, oh, okay. So, and he was saying it in a nice way. He was like, being the coach, right? And I'm always like, stop coaching me. But he was like, so it's not that my clothes down there are bothering you. It's that it's inconveniencing you because you want to hang your clothes up. I'm like, yeah, that's what I said. And he's like, no, that's not what you said. So it's what's your need? Because often we say something, but we're not actually saying like what we actually need or want.
That's a good thing. And I don't mean to we're not always coaching each other. That's just how my brain works. Like, that's why I work with people for a living. That's why I love doing what I'm doing. Because when people talk to me about stuff, that's just how, whenever we get into those type of conversations, that's just how my brain works. But I used to not be that way. It took of learning and studying and, all this, to think differently and communicate differently. And, because I had a lot of lies in my life. We had a lot of painful conversations in our life. And we had a lot of, me and Nikki, like the way that we live and things like that. When we started to change and shift everything, we had to become very transparent. It starts with the people that are closest to you in your life, and then it starts to expand. And then, believe it or not, the easiest people to talk to sometimes are people that you don't know. So sometimes these conversations, they start in your core of your being. And then before you know it, you become very open and everything with people. But it all starts, there's a couple rocks sometimes we carry. Not everybody. I'm not saying everybody has these things. This is just a little bit of my experience with people, our own life, and just to be free. It's like we carry packs in our life, and we don't want to be carrying at least as many rocks as possible before we exit this planet. Before we say bye, that was fun, the tacos were great, we want to empty our rocks as much as possible. That's what we're here to do. I mean, at least there's something here. It's something to do worthwhile, right? People worry about politics and sports and all sorts of stuff. But this is the inner workings of life here. These are things that can fill your mind, that will bring you freedom, liberation, and joy. You can contemplate this conversation for a while. Have it in your mind over and over again, clear that energy a little bit, and then you're going to find the empowerment, and you're going to have it. Like Stephanie, if you have a conflict that's always there in your life, just by simply you starting to reframe it and looking at it differently and trying something new is going to give you a lot of empowerment. Just that is going to shift things around. And just really ask your heart what you want. Anything else from anybody? Give me a 1 in the chat if you know something that you're going to do leaving this call, or something that's in your field of awareness? Is there something there for you that wasn't there for you? Very good. That was all this was. That was the main point of all this, is to give you, is to spark something that wasn't there. Well, it was great to see all of you and meet all of you and interact. And once again, if there's any last quick questions, well, good for you, Natalie or Nataline. But when you're in a time of grief, sometimes the just staying on course with the little things are what really can pull you through. So good for you for showing up to something in the self-development world, even though you might not be feeling like that right now. All right. Anything, Nikki, that you would like to say?
No, that's great. Emily just said, I just saw the email. It came late. Oh, sorry, Emily. Last minute. Like Michael mentioned earlier, this event tonight was actually just for my online school students. And like 30 minutes before, we were like, let's open it up to everybody. So I sent that email out last minute, but I'll send you guys the recording. I wasn't going to do that, but I got a lot of emails back from people asking for it. So I'll send the recording out for you.
Yes. And it'll be good. You know, if you have somebody that you think this would benefit or anything like that, go ahead and send them the recording.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so many blessings, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
I want to leave you with this. Changing yourself changes the world. Healing yourself heals the world. 100%. Many blessings.